Well, hey, McFly subscribers. So I have a review for you. This is on my Sage method. As you can see here, Sage method. Okay, it's a 6 weight, 9 foot 6 weight, and it is a great rod. Now, this is, at the time this was built, I'm not sure if there's anything new that is as stiff. But this is the stiffest rod, at least when it was built, ever made. There might be something newer that, at least in the name brand, is the stiffest. Now that can be a good thing, and it can also be a bad thing. It depends on what you're using it for. This is a very specific type of rod. This is not a moderate action, so therefore you cannot use this for everything. Nymphing, if it's bigger nymphs, you're fishing like steelhead, good rod. Big heavy nymphs, it'll get them out there pretty good. If you are dry fly fishing, I wouldn't really say this is the best rod for you. There might be some instances where you might want a super stiff rod for dry fly, but it's a power rod. This is a power rod. This is not made at all for finesse fishing. 100% a power rod. You're going to get very far casts with this. You're gonna have power to be able to bring those fish, big fish, hard fighting fish in, especially with larger tippet. You can put some pressure on them. It's a very high quality blank, so you're not going to, granted you can break it, and I actually have broken this, but I banged it on a rock, and if you guys have been watching the channel, you saw that on video. But you're not going to break it on a fish as long as you take care of it and you don't have any, you don't bang it on something. Okay. It's a high quality rod. Granted, you're going to pay a high quality price for this. This is an $850 rod. Very, very, very high end rod. Almost everything Sage makes is high end. Very, very high end, very expensive. But again, Sage makes, I think, some of the best rods out there, really. You're not going to break this on big fish. These are really good big fish rods. Power rods, most of them are pretty stiff. Now they do have a few moderate action rods. In fact, they call it the Mod is a moderate action rod. Pretty good rod, but of course, high end, really pricey. Personally, would I buy this? No, I wouldn't. It's too expensive in my opinion, unless you have specifics that you're going for, okay, that you need this super stiff high-end rod for. When I got this, I was fishing redfish, and I had an 8 weight. In fact, let me grab that. So I've only got the butt section of it. This is my 8 weight, and it's a good rod. Temple Fork Outfitters, it's about a $200 rod, I think, 160 to 200, somewhere around there, depending on the length and weight or whatever. So much less expensive. And it's a decent rod. It does well. But it's an 8 weight. It was heavy. It does have a heavier tip on it, so when you're casting, you feel that a little more. And I was fishing for redfish, and we're talking lots of casts to redfish. And I would get tired at the end of the day fishing this 8 weight. Plus, it's an 8 weight. So, it just somehow having a feel of something lighter, fishing for red just feels nicer. But I needed an 8 weight for most rods to be able to get those big, mullet patterns out there. Sometimes these mullets, flies I was casting were like this big to some of the bigger bull reds during the mullet run when they were eating on that. So I was looking around and I talked to a lot of people about what rod would be best to step it down. I didn't want this big heavy rod. I wanted something a little lighter, and someone suggested, because it's so stiff, I can actually this is a 6 weight versus an 8. They suggested get a Sage method. Now it's pricey, but get a Sage method and get it with a 6 weight, and you will be able to still cast those big flies. And also the smaller ones, of course. You're still casting smaller flies sometimes for redfish. Depends on the time of year and what you're going for. crab patterns and whatnot. But this does it all. It can cast it all. And you can actually step up with the line. So if you want, because it's so stiff, it's a 6 weight, but I would actually use a 7 weight line with it. 7 weight redfish line. At the time, that's what I was using. And I bought this, and that's what I got it for. Now, actually, I say I bought it. I did not buy this. This was a gift. Again, I would say I would not buy this rod because I don't have the money to buy this rod. In my opinion, $850 is outrageous. That's my opinion. Of course, that comes from me. That's my personal, the way my income works, my ability to spend money. $850 is just too much for me. I would rather get a couple other rods, but I got it as a gift. A very, very nice gift from someone, and I appreciate that very much from them, and you know who it is. You know who you are, I mean, so thank you if you're watching. But it is a great rod, and I was very happy to have it. In fishing redfish, this was literally my go-to rod, and I thought it was great because it was lighter. It's a 6 weight, not an 8 weight, and I can still cast everything that I needed. It's a power rod. And fighting the fish was a little more fun. I could feel them more, but I never had worries about this rod breaking. And it seemed to hold them good. I could put as much pressure almost on them as my 8 weight, but I would feel them better because this rod is more sensitive, being a 6 weight and a little stiffer, and just overall a great rod for that. Now, if you're a trout fisherman, again, this rod could work for you, something like this, 6 weight or even 5 weight or whatever. A super stiff rod like this, really, really stiff rod, will work for trout fishing. However, it's mostly streamer, or like I said earlier, big nymphs. Big, heavy nymph rigs, like if you're salmon fly nymphs, fishing for, steelhead. And when I moved to Napa, I brought this rod with me, and that's what I use that for. Large steelhead. In fact, it would have been better for me to get this the 9.5 foot 6 weight, but this did just fine. A great rod, guys. I mean, again, I give this rod 2 thumbs up if you're not including the price. It's a great rod. Absolutely amazing. It just handles heavier stuff, large streamers, big nymphs very well. In fact, it handles them like a 7 weight or even an 8 weight. But this is a 6 weight, 9 foot 6 weight. It handles more like a 7 or 8. In fact, like I said just a minute ago, I put a 7 weight line on this when I would fish. In fact, I still got a 7 weight line that I decided to use. It's my sink tip line that I use for large streamers. It's a Rio outbound short with, I think, a 1 to 2 or maybe 2 to 4 second. I got to look at it. I forgot exactly what it is. But it's a sink tip line, and I put that on there. That's a heavy line, yet this still casts it just fine. It picks it up just fine. It has enough power. It doesn't feel soft. It still has that power to be able to cast such a heavy, super heavy line. And I can power that out there and cast really far. In fact, you guys have seen me do it, and I'll show you a clip right now of me doing that. As you can see, it's getting out there very far from just a simple roll cast. But if you want to do some back casts, you can wing it out there really far, especially with a high quality, super front loaded line. So, again, for specifics, what if you're looking for a rod that's a power rod that can get big flies out there, heavy lines, sinking lines, big nymphs, this is the rod for you. But it is not, again, I repeat, not a all-around rod. This is a specific type of fishing, this rod. Power fishing. This is not a finesse rod whatsoever. You're not going to make delicate casts to rising trout with a dry fly. You're just not. It's going to have a little more power. You're going to have a little more oomph. Doesn't mean you can't do it. But it's not the best rod for that. And if that's what you're going to be doing all day, there are other options out there. Again, you've got rods like this. This rod here is a good all-around rod. Now, of course, it's an 8-weight, so I mean, you're not going to be doing dry flies too often with an 8-weight, unless it's again for larger, really large dry flies. But this is a Lefty Kreh Professional Series 2 from Temple Fork Outfitters. These rods, I have a 5-weight of this too. These rods are great all-around rods. They're moderate action. They've got bend down into, of course, not this far down, but down into the backbone. They've got a little bend into it. The backbone's a little shorter, so it gives you a little more a smoother casts, because you can you've got, it's just a more moderate. When you set the hook, you're not ripping it, especially smaller hooks, out of the fish's mouth with a more moderate action rod like this. This is a super stiff rod. It's not made for that. It's made for specifics. And again, moderate actions, you can do just about anything with a moderate action rod as long as it's within that weight range. A 5-weight obviously is going to be different than an 8-weight, but a 5-weight moderate action rod is a great all-around rod for trout fishing, at least where I live. You can pretty much do anything with it. But that doesn't mean that it's the best for a specific situation. A moderate action rod is still not as good for dry fly fishing as a super slow action. Maybe even like a fiberglass rods are great for dry fly. You've got really slow action. You can make really delicate casts, especially with small flies. You've got a lot more bend in the rod, so when you go to set it, it's protecting that. When they go to run really quick, you've got a little more time to react, so it's good at protecting those light tippets and small flies. But try to take one of those super slow action rods and go cast a big heavy streamer with it. Can it be done? Yeah. Is it the best option? No, you want to step up to something like this, okay, for that kind of thing. And so you've got moderate rods that are good all-around rods, and you've got extremes. You've got super fast action rods like this, and you've got super slow action rods, and each one of those are better for specifics. You can get this in like a 4-weight and cast some pretty large woolly buggers with it just fine, probably, because it's a pretty stiff rod. And therefore you're fishing a 4-weight for streamers and even some larger streamers. Let's see if I've got any that I just grabbed one box here. I think these are all poppers. There we go. I could easily, with a 4-weight and this rod, cast this fly even though it's got a little weight to it. Easily. Could I do that with a super moderate or slow action rod? Probably not. Not with a 4-weight. With a 6-weight I could. When you're casting big heavy flies like this popper, this big old wind resistant catches wind popper, you just can't do it with a really slow action rod. I mean, I guess you could. It's difficult. It's not like you can get very far. You just don't have the power behind it to be able to launch it out there really far. With this rod, you do. With a heavy action rod, I could probably get away with a 5-weight of this rod on this fly. I'd probably have to step up to an 8-weight if it was really slow action rod to cast this fly. So there's the difference. So that's what this is good for. It's for casting big, heavy, or wind-resistant flies. That's what it's for, okay? So now that we've got what it's for out of the way, if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for a power rod like this, then let's talk about everything else. Let's talk about the components first. Obviously, it's a little dirty here. I probably need to clean it a little better. Okay, but I use my stuff. I mean, it has not been sitting on the shelf. I've used it for many years. And again, this rod's been out for a long time. It's not a new rod. It isn't just fresh off the shelf. You can see it's dirty cork, although I do work at cleaning it. Just this last couple trips I didn't. I've got a little bit of gumminess. But I clean it as much as I can. But it's high quality cork. This is an old rod, guys. I've had this for many years. And you can see there's not much pitting going on, a little bit. But again, you're paying $850. So what do you expect? You would expect a good cork, and it does have it. It delivers with that. The components here, the reel seat are it's high quality. This is never going to break. I don't think. I mean, I don't have any kind of thought that this might break, but it holds a reel really well. Let's see. I'm not suggesting use this reel for power fishing, guys. It just was sitting here next to me. Just what I'm using. Still a good reel. Not docking it. I like it. Okay. You guys have seen me review it before. So there you go. So that, it holds the reel just fine. It's solid, it's in there, it's locked in really well. It's a double lock, so this isn't really gonna come loose very easily. It's really good for the specific type of fishing you're looking for with this, which is power fishing. You're gonna have a fish, usually you're fishing larger fish with this rod. You're gonna have a larger fish be taken line quickly and fast, and you need something to seat this in properly, and this is just, it's solid in there, and this is not gonna move. Okay, now you got a fighting butt. Again, this is, they've got a couple different seats and a couple different corks, okay? A couple different handles and reel seats and basically the whole handle section. Ooh. Got a couple different styles depending on what weight rod you get, okay? I think there's a 6 weight with a, without a fighting butt, okay? So, but if you get the fighting butt one, it's a nice fighting butt. It's nice and cushy, and there's enough distance here that you can actually get it in your gut and still fight a fish if you need so. Got a big fish running, okay? But it's a nice, comfortable shape to the cork. I really like this. In fact, I mimicked this exact cork when I got my custom rod done, my 3 weight, because it's just super comfortable in hand. Okay, it's not one of these cigar kind of style where it tapers off. I forgot what they call that, where it tapers off at the bottom. To me, my hand slips forward, especially with casting all day with heavy line and heavy flies. This is made good. It has a little lip up here, not as big as the one down here, but a little one. But it's not too big. It's not too thick. It just fits perfect in my hand. Of course, I've got smaller hands, but I'm sure it would fit fine in most everyone's hand. There's a little squishiness to it. By the way, I fished this in salt, and this is still operating perfectly. Okay, so again, the components are great. The way that the handle is built is great. I like the shape a lot. I like, pretty much everything about this rod. It's great. I really like it for specifics. Of course, I don't like the price, but, it is what it is. So this is what it comes with. The rod, it comes with the sock here, which you can fit the rod in. I'll do it really quick for you guys. There's the sock. And it also has this aluminum tube. Okay? And this is a really high quality tube, by the way, guys. Has a nice cushion here on the cap, and I'm sure down here on the bottom it's got cushion too for sticking the rod in. And this thing holds a rod just fine. And this, you could literally probably drive this over with your car and it's not going to bend. This is really heavy duty. It's high quality, I think aluminum. But really cool looking too, because it matches the blank. You remember the blank was red, so it matches the blank. And it just looks really nice. It's a nice looking rod tube. Granted, most of the time, guys, I'm not really fishing with, I'm not using it in a rod tube. I've got it in a, I've got my reel connected to it, and I'm putting it in, even with storage or whatever, I've got one that holds a reel as well, with a little, reel holder. And I'm most of the time putting it in there, but it's nice that it comes with it, but it should be in that price. It should come with something. So here we go. Fits right in there just perfectly with just the right amount of space for it. Be able to put this on, but it's not going to break it by screwing this on, but it's also, if you shake it, there's not very much room back and forth for this to bang against there. It's just really nice. It comes in a nice package here. That's how it comes. That's how you buy it. Of course, this one's all beat up and scratched because I've had this for many years. And I take care of my stuff. I try to, guys, but, many years of having something, it's going to have scratches on it. Great rod, great components, everything is high end, really nice, beautiful rod. I think it looks nice. I think it's a really nice looking rod. Everything, even this sock that it comes in is just nice looking. It's high quality sock. It's not junk fabric. It's decent fabric. Everything's great. Is it $850 worth great? I don't know. I don't think so. Not in my opinion. And I hate to dock them for that. That's not, I mean, it has its place. Don't get me wrong. $850 rods have their place. Like I said, I mean, if you're going out, here's the thing. If you're one of those fly fishermen that take trips, let's say you're going to, Belize or something, or somewhere far, far away, and, you can take 2 rods with you, you don't want to take a rod that is not a high quality. You're already spending $3,000 on a trip or whatever it may be, to your bonefish trip or whatever you're doing. You're going to want a really high-end rod that is known for its durability, something that's not going to break on you, something that's not going to snap on a fish. Of course, you're going to work at taking care of it. You don't want to bang it on a rock. All right, guys, sorry my camera died here. It's 20-minute timing on how long I can shoot, so it only lasts about 20 to 25 minutes. I apologize. Hopefully I can remember what I was just talking about, but again, these are not scripted. None of my shows are scripted. Nothing is. I just kind of go off of a whim and start talking about it, and it's just my ideas of, especially these product reviews. It's just my ideas on it after fishing it, kind of like I would do talking about it with a friend. I don't have this written out. I don't even know where I'm going with it usually. Just kind of talk my ideas. So sometimes they ramble on. If it does for you, I apologize, but I try to give as much info as I can on these. Unfortunately, my camera doesn't allow that. It only lasts 20 minutes. But, if you're taking a long trip to somewhere like Belize or somewhere where you're going to spend a lot of money on the trip, don't bring a rod with you that doesn't have the reputation like this has for durability. I mean, you're not going to break this as long as you take care of it and don't bang it on a rock or do anything bad with it. It's gonna last, and it's not gonna break on fish. Very rarely do these ever break on fish. If you're handling it the right way and fishing it the right way, you're not gonna break this rod. So it's gonna stand up to the abuse that some of these hard fighting big fish do. Okay, so if you're gonna spend a ton of money on a trip, make sure you get a good rod, and that's where I think this rod shines. Again, I got it for redfish, fish for redfish many times, a lot like you would for bonefish, maybe a little different, but that kind of thing. So I think a 6-weight or a 7-weight for bonefish would be great. This rod especially, I think would be a really good one for that kind of thing. So that's really where I see this rod shining, large streamers or even hard fighting fish like bonefish. Where you need that extra power to get out there far, really far casts, so you don't spook them, but also the power also to fight them as well, okay, with a lighter rod. I mean, you don't want to go take a 10-weight out for bonefish. That's where I see this rod shining again. I think it would have, 10 thumbs up. It's an amazing rod if it wasn't so expensive. So for the everyday fisherman, most of what you're doing, if you're looking for a rod that's a good all-around rod and you only want 1 or 2 rods in your arsenal, this might not be for you unless all you really do is is something that this is specified for. Okay, if all you do is fish bonefish or redfish, and that this might be the rod for you if you're looking for just a one type of rod. But if you want a good all-arounder, something that you can catch bass and trout and redfish and whatever it may be. I'm just naming fish that I personally used to fish for. This might not be it since you're looking for an all-arounder. You want something that smaller nymphs or dry flies or even smaller. You want that kind of moderate cast because you might not have your cast down. See, that's another thing about a really stiff rod like this is these are harder to cast. You have to have your timing down perfectly because you're not going to feel the back cast unless you up it to a 7-weight line. Okay, so if you have a 6-weight and then you up to a 7-weight line, or if you have a 7-weight you up it to an 8, you might feel that back cast a little bit, but you're not going to very well with a super stiff rod. It's not the best type of rod for a beginning fisherman. You need that moderate kind of feel action to be able to feel that back cast to get your timing down right. Okay, so again, that's one other negative I would say about a super stiff rod like this. Maybe not the best for like a newbie fisherman that has I I know some guys that, you know, are rich and have a lot of money, lawyers or doctors or whatever, and they'll go out and they'll buy the best of the best. They'll get a Sage 1 or a Sage Method or the newest of the new of all these companies, which generally the most expensive one is going to be a super stiff rod most of the time. And they get out there and they have so much trouble casting and they can't figure out why everyone else casts so much better, and it's because they haven't gotten their timing down. They didn't start off with a moderate action rod, a easy to use rod, something that helps you build your cast, okay? Instead, they started with something super expensive. It doesn't mean that expensive is bad. I mean, there's some, like I said, Sage makes a moderate action expensive rod. Just the stiffness is really what I'm talking to, but most of the time, as we know, you know, most of the major companies, their high-end offerings are usually their most stiff, super fast action. Might not be the best for the newbie fisherman, not only because of the price, but also because it's just not really great for learning a cast. Go with something a little more moderate, you know, especially if you're new. If you're looking for an all-around type of rod to be able to fish many species or many type of fishing, or if you're a trout fisherman, and most part, unless you're only hucking big meat kind of streamers, something like this might not be good for you. And this rod probably not, because it is one of the stiffest out there. Well guys, thanks for watching and keeping with me on this long review. Just had a lot to say about this rod. I've been fishing it for many years. I enjoy it, you know, and so I wanted to talk about everything that I've found about the rod and give you all the info possible. So if you like this sort of thing, please subscribe and also click the like for me. Also, you can support this channel by buying one of my shirts right here. They're great shirts and they're high quality. I mean, and you can even get them with a hood. I actually recently had melanoma, and that's why I looked into these shirts, because they're sun shirts. They keep the sun off you. They're rated 55 SPF, and they're just really good quality. Cooling shirts too. You're out there in the hot sun. This is a perfect shirt for that. That hood keeps the sun off you, off your neck and face. You pair it with a hat, and you're good to go. But also it's cooling, so it allows the wind to come through. Not only keeps the sun off you, but allows that wind to come through. So if you want one of those, check it out. I've got a link in the description section where you can purchase one of those, and that'll help support the channel as well, and also give you a great shirt to fish in. So again, thanks for watching guys. I will see you on the next video. Now you go catch some fish.